Handoffs and invading space. So this one is extremely similar to enclosed spaces, and it puts the dog into an immediate fight or flight state. The only difference is we typically are the ones creating the state of mind by moving quickly into the dog's space while they are in a position where they feel they can't get away. Common places we will see this when the dog is in a corner, lying in one spot, or when someone is holding the leash and we approach or walk closely by. Another place we will commonly see this is the handoff from owner to trainer. We usually recommend the owners muzzle the dog for the first handoff as a precaution. So again, basically the same exact thing. The only difference is we're creating that space. So in a confined space, obviously there's a physical barrier around them, right? We are not doing anything to do it. The dog is in a position where they legitimately have one exit route to that, and we are blocking it, essentially, right? In this one, this is the example of the tree branch. You're coming up to them quickly. They're on the leash, right? Handing off from owner to trainer, things like that, right? And again, keep in mind, understanding all of these different things, the key about this is you could look at each scenario and ask yourself, is this a trigger of typical aggression, right? And if it is, you need to take a step back. You need to look at the scenario and ask yourself, how can I work through this kind of stuff more effectively, right? Next one, food aggression. Very common one here. Some dogs develop a strong biological instinct to protect their food. Some dogs are more intense than others with it. Typically, the way that we go about actually feeding them dictates how the process goes. There are many things we could do while we feed them to make sure we stay an active part of the process and not allow them to cycle into the defensive state of mind they can. Below is my outlined feeding protocol. So I outlined a little bit of a protocol as far as if I have a food aggressive dog, how I would go about feeding that dog in a way where I could minimize as much of that stress involved in the process as possible. Because here's the thing, the food aggression is coming from a place of the dog feeling like that thing is theirs. So this is a drill that I typically will do as I'm feeding a dog that has food aggression issues. So step one, claim the food bowl. If the dog is particularly dangerous, do them with them back tied off so that if they try to bite, they can't get to you. So you could utilize a back tie against a wall, or you could use a back tie that somebody else is holding, or it could be something that just ensures if the dog does try to come at you, it can only get so far, right? So that's the first step here with this. I would say a good majority of dogs are not so dangerous with this that you have to do a lot of that. A lot of them are just going to get growly, snarly, and stuff like that over the food, but they're not really going to leave that food bowl, right? So you got to use your best judgment on understanding the dog you're working with in order to make that assessment. So start with your e-collar set at a highly motivating level, unless you're using an alternate means of correcting. Set your food bowl down on the ground with no hesitation. Do not tell the dog sit or wait. If they go for it before you say so, tell them no and correct. You repeat that process until they are patiently waiting for the food. Now, this is the first most important step of it that I see most people mess up, right? Is they have no control over that bowl, right? When they have that bowl in their hand, the dog is jumping, they're trying to get it, they're hyped up, they're jacked up, and they are in zero state of impulse control, right? First step is getting them in impulse control. Now, I do not use a sit or a wait command or anything like that because those imply that we would be correcting for a command, not for going for the food. I want to tell them the food is what I'm telling you can't have right now. The second they stick their mouth in that bowl before I tell them, okay, they're getting a big correction for that, and they're understanding that thing that you think is yours is not right now. You cannot have that right now. And we make them wait for it, and we wait until they're being patient about it. Now, for, I would say, the low to mid food aggressive cases that I work with, this first step solves the problem. I mean, literally, this first step gets them out of that state of mind of like, whoa, you're telling me that that's yours right now? How interesting. Why didn't you just tell me so, right? So this is the first most important step. Step two, release the dog to eat. Stay close while they're eating so they get used to your presence near them while eating. Again, this is the second step of it. Now we have to tell them, okay, it's very normal that as we start working through this process initially, that the dog may be a little bit hesitant to approach the food bowl because they may have just gotten corrected a couple times at a higher level for going for it. That's okay. You can kind of encourage them. Hey, here you go, whatever, until they start eating. And then the other most important part is stay in their space while they're eating. Most people do this. They put the food bowl down, then and they back up, right? Mostly because they're nervous, right? Understandably so. But the second you do that, you're teaching the dog that as they approach the food bowl, you're going to back up, which is reinforcing that state of mind of defending the food.
Okay.
Right? So don't do that. Stay with them. Get them used to your presence. Step 3, wait until the dog is no longer messing with the food bowl and disengage from it. Pick it up and end process. Very straightforward. A lot of people, once the kibble is gone, try to go and take the food bowl while the dog is still messing with the bowl. Let them do their thing. Let them lick it for 4 minutes if they want to until they go and walk away from that food bowl. Once they do that, pick up the food bowl, go away. I don't overcomplicate this process any more than that. I think that a lot of food aggression is greatly exacerbated. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever used that word in a sentence before.
Another one.
Smack. It's greatly made worse by us overthinking this process and messing with the dog too much while they're eating. We try to pet them. We try to talk to them. We try to get on their level. We try to give them treats while they're eating. We try to work an out command 17,000 times with them.
Yeah.
You do all these different things that just create more frustration with the process, right? Which is not the goal here. The goal is to create less frustration, make sure the dog understands that the food is yours, and also over time get them used to your presence while they're eating. Right?
Yeah.
Now, again, these are all general. The purpose of this is not to teach you how to work through this, obviously. The purpose of this is so you understand these triggers. And I think that the reason why I put down that step-by-step process is because I think it plays a part in understanding the trigger of the resource guarding, right?
Yeah.
Last note with that one, do not feed food-aggressive dogs in enclosed areas. Here's the thing, right? Like, obviously, we know the dog is food aggressive, right? We also know that enclosed areas is another major trigger. So if we're combining triggers right now, things tend to go poorly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Combining triggers means we have double the chance that something's going to happen and double the reasons why it may happen in the first place. So just don't do it. It's typically speaking going to be a bad idea. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
Well, to that, I think, because a lot of people where they feed their dog is usually like in the cubby, like on the side of the kitchen,
for sure.
or by the back door. So it's like in this little hallway
Nook. Yeah.
little nook area. So that's a good idea.
Find a nice open area to do it in.
Yeah.
And
then the thing I was originally going to say, I feel like what your first point of don't tell them to sit or down because we talked about this with the fence fighting last week.
Oh, the come command. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is such an easy thing to mess up that you don't understand that you're not communicating well.
Yeah.
Because your dog's thinking, I didn't do the set part. It's not the food that they're worried about. It was that command prior.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like got to be a huge mistake for people at home.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, you got to look at, like, are we looking to solve the problem or manage the problem, right?
Yeah.
There are situations where managing the problem is necessary, right? So, like, I have a client that has a dog that resource guards, like, miscellaneous objects in the house, right? And I think that they're only going to get so far with working through it, and they've hit a point of really good management at this point, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is, like, we've addressed the problem with toys, we've addressed it with food. It's not a problem with those types of things. But if the dog gets something it shouldn't have, it will start guarding those things, right?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is this dog also gets pretty intense about its responses when it guards those types of things. And if you're in close proximity and try to give corrections for it, the dog will try to redirect, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about in the first one, right?
Yeah.
So we had to, in place, put for situations we can't predict, for situations we're not prepared for and can't handle perfectly like we typically would, we've had to put in place management techniques of utilizing things like a come command or a place command or things like that to redirect the dog away from those things that they're guarding initially in that moment. But that's under the understanding that that's not going to actively do anything to solve that problem right there. It's just going to help you be able to gain back control of the situation so you could essentially like live to fight another day.
Yeah.
Right? So it's necessary sometimes, but early on, if we're looking at situations like this where we're trying to establish a clear routine, the sit or the wait is not going to be productive. It may look the same, right? The dog may wind up sitting and waiting when you follow my protocol here, but they're doing it for different reasons.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to understand with this.